Hello, my name is Emerine, and today we're going to be drawing another little silly K-pop boy from Stray Kids. So last time I drew Hyunjin as a princely knight inspired by a medieval TikTok, but this time the inspiration comes from a totally different place, like you probably saw in the thumbnail. So this all started when a friend of mine and I wanted to know if all of the Stray Kids had English names or not, and some of them were pretty normal, but then we found out that IN's English name is Bob. And the article that I was reading, it also had some comments, and someone said that his name was probably inspired by the minion from the Despicable Me movies. And although I don't think that that's the actual reason, but at the time it felt super plausible and we could not stop cracking up about it. And so when I started looking up like who this minion was, I found this picture of King Bob, and I knew that I had to draw IN as him, especially with the song Maknae on top, and also just his like really confident energy that he's been giving off lately. So I knew that I wanted to have him reclining on a throne, basically in a minion cosplay with the crown and the cape from the picture. And so I started working on refining the pose, getting his facial proportions correct, and also adding in that little teddy bear. Once I got to the throne and the crown, it was a lot of fun figuring out how I was going to depict the details and the textures from my references, since there was a lot of velvet, wood, like metal textures, gold, and also a whole bunch of jewels. And with the cape, I didn't realize until later that how I originally drew it, it was falling behind the chair and it was being seen underneath, but that actually wouldn't make sense unless the chair didn't have a back, and so I just had to redraw it a little bit later. And although I really liked how it looked compositionally with filling out some more of that like negative space underneath the chair, I fixed it to have it look more like it was being bunched up behind his back and then spilling out over the sides of the throne's arms. So it still looked really just like massive and big, but it made more sense this time. Next, I went in with my favorite pencil tool to get a more textured line art. And this is my favorite and also the fastest way for me to do line art, because then I don't have to worry about every single one of my strokes having to be super smooth and perfect on the first time. And I also really like it because when I recolor it as I go with coloring the entire piece, and the colors kind of like mesh together since they're really similar, and so I just really love how this looks. As I was filling in the colors, I knew that almost every color was going to be a different texture, and so I kept them all on their own separate layers so that later on I'd be able to alpha lock them. And so this basically just means that I would only be able to draw in the areas that I had already drawn, and by keeping them separated, I wouldn't need to worry about like messing up the textures of the things around like I was worried about when I've drawn like kind of everything on one layer. I think my favorite parts to color and shade were definitely the velvets on the chair and the crown, and also the fur on his robe. And that's because the brush that I was using, it really helped to give that kind of like short fuzzy texture that I was looking for right away, in comparison to like his skin or also his yellow t-shirt, which I wanted to be smoother, and so I just had to go in and kind of refine those a little bit more than the velvet. And to finish him up before I went to the background details, I added spots to his cape, and I also did a few other little touch-ups. Since I was imagining this being a poster or a sticker or something, I wanted to balance out the composition by putting a shape behind him on the left. And I was thinking about doing a solid color, but I felt like it needed something a bit more since the rest of it was so detailed. So I put this nice blue sky to contrast with the warm like red and yellow, and I also brightened up the bottom part with some light pinks and yellows so that the shape wasn't as noticeable under the edge of the chair. And there's King IN. I feel like somehow he makes the minion look seem really cool even though he has his little teddy bear with him, and I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. And also, when you heard that his name was Bob, what were your first thoughts? I cannot get King Bob out of my head now. But with all of that, that's it for today, and I hope that you had fun and that you have an amazing rest of your day.